Hello friends, I'm Professor Wayam Khan and today we are going to study the second part of our queuing model series. Now in this second part, we are going to study the various characteristics of queuing system, the operating characteristics of a queuing system, the effect of waiting time and idle time on the costs, and the Kendall's notation for representing queuing models. Okay, now without wasting a lot of time, I'll move to the main content. In last video, we have seen how some customers arrive at a station or at a service node where they are served, and some customers are waiting in queue, and after getting their services, the customers leave the service node, or you can say service channel. So the customers who are arriving at the service node, uh, the rate at which they are arriving at the service node is denoted by lambda, which is called as arrival rate. Okay, and this is your waiting area, or you can say this is your queue where number of customers are waiting for the service to be provided. Okay, and this is mu, which is your distribution for service time, that is called as your service rate or your departure rate. Okay, it is denoted by mu. This was this diagram we have studied yesterday. Today we'll see the different operating characteristics of a queuing system, which are the different definitions, what are the terms that are involved in your queuing system or in your queuing models. The first thing that we have to see is queue length. Okay, it is nothing but the average number of customers present in the queue waiting to get service. This excludes the customers being served. Okay, there are two types of customers uh, in our queuing system. One is a customer that is being served. Okay, the services are being provided to that customer. Okay, he is or she is not waiting there, and there is another customer who is in the waiting line. Okay, who is in the waiting line. So this is the average number of customers in the queue. The customers who are waiting in the waiting line is known as the average number of customers waiting in the queue line or in queue is called as queue length, which is denoted by LQ. Whereas system length represents the average number of customers in the system, including those who are waiting as well as those who are being served. So this is the total number of customers. Okay, you can say system length is the total number of customers present in the system, whereas queue length is the total number of customers present only in the queue. Okay, now third thing that we have to see is waiting time in the queue. Okay, it is represented by WQ, the average time for which a customer has to wait in the queue to get service. We have seen that there are some customers who are waiting for the service. Say if the customer who is waiting to get his or her uh, automobile refilled with the fuel. Say we are at a petrol pump or at a petrol station where we have gone there for filling our petrol tank. Okay, now we have to wait for some time because there is always the most of the time there is always a queue for the petrol refilling, right? So the average time that a customer spends waiting for the refuel is nothing but the waiting time in the queue. Okay, from this example, the average time for which a customer has to wait in the queue to get service. Okay, third is your the representation is WQ. and waiting time in the queue is done. Now we have to see what is the meaning of total time in the system. Total time in the system, WS, it is represented by WS. Okay, now a customer has to spend, if there is a queue, a customer has to spend some time in the queue. So that time will be your waiting time, where the customer is waiting for the services. Okay, then the customer arrives at the service channel and he gets served by the server. Now, the server takes some time for the services that is to be provided to that particular customer. Okay, so customer, or you can say during the service, some more time is spent by the customer. So, waiting time we have seen. Okay, now total time is the summation of the time that a customer spends for waiting as well as for the services. Okay, the average total time spent by a customer in the system from the moment he arrives till he leaves the system. As soon as he arrives at the system, okay, the timing will be started. It may have some waiting time, it will have some service time. So the addition of service time and waiting time is nothing but your total time spent in the system. A customer that spends the waiting time and service time is nothing but the total time in the system, that is WS. Okay, now this particular fifth point is very important for us because we have to use this particular thing at many points in our numericals. Okay, all of them are important, but this one is more important. Now, utilization factor, which is represented by rho, is the proportion of time a server actually spends with customer. It is also called as traffic intensity. Okay, it is the proportion of time a server, a person who is serving, who is providing the services to the customer. Okay, it is the proportion of time a server actually spends with customers. It is nothing but utilization factor. Utilization factor. It is the ratio of your lambda by mu. It is the ratio of lambda by mu. It is called traffic intensity. It is called as traffic intensity. We will see the various formulae used for calculation of these things. Okay. Then we'll see what is the effect of waiting time and idle time on the cost. Or what do you mean by waiting time and idle time cost? If a person has to wait for some time, that means he has to spend some time from, you can say, his working hours, from his lifespan, or from his some important time, he has to wait for some time. Okay, that time is again associated with cost. That time is again associated with cost. Okay, now in order to solve a queuing problem, service facility must be manipulated so that an optimum balance is obtained between the cost of waiting time and cost of idle time. We have to manipulate the service facility. We have to make changes in service facilities, or we have to, you can say, make our service facility dynamic so as to optimize the waiting time and the cost of idle time. Okay, now how you can say the cost is associated with waiting time and how it is associated with idle time. Okay, now see the cost of waiting customer. If a customer is waiting for some time, it can be indirect cost like loss of business. Suppose a customer sees a long queue in the petrol station. At a petrol station, at a petrol pump, he sees a long, very long queue. Okay, there is in last video we have seen customer behavior. Okay, that how customers renegades and how he uh, changes his minds. Okay, changes his mind from coming to the queue, or he leaves sometimes the queue, or he jumps a queue, right? That various behaviors we have studied in last video. Now suppose there is a long queue in your at your petrol station, and you see it, and you suddenly changes your mind. Oh, I don't want to go to there because there is a long queue. Because there is a very long queue, I don't want to spend so much time. I'll go, I'll visit some other petrol pump because I have some fuel in my bike or say my car. I'll visit some other petrol pump and I'll refill there. Okay. Now in this situation, if the queue was shorter, or if there was a no queue at the petrol station, the customer would have arrived at the same petrol pump, and the petrol pump owner or the service provider would have made some business. They have earned some money there, but that business is lost due to the very lengthy queue. So if a customer has to wait for some time, or he has to spend lot of time in waiting, so he'll change his mind, or he'll probably not ever come back to the service channel. Okay, so in this way, that indirect cost of lost businesses associated with the waiting time. And there is some direct cost also. Suppose suppose direct cost of idle equipment or a person. Suppose there is a machine, and it produces holes on number of jobs, and there are no jobs to be machined, or you can say there are no jobs in the queue, or there is no job in the system which are to be machined on this particular machine. So that particular equipment or that particular operator has to wait for some time, so that when a new workpiece or new job comes to him, and then he can machine it on that particular machine, or by that particular person. So when this particular equipment or this particular machine and this particular man is spending idle time waiting for again the customer, you can say the part that is to be machined is customer here. So if he has to wait for that particular customer, then he is spending his valuable time in waiting. So this cost is again associated with waiting time, and that cost is direct cost of idle equipment or a person. If a person has to wait for some time, then he is spending his valuable time in it. So there is cost associated with it. Okay. Now the cost of idle service facilities. If the service facilities are idle, if the service facilities are not being used for some time, then what happens is the cost of idle service facilities is the payment to be made to the server for period for which they remain idle. Suppose you're a owner of a saloon, you're owner of a saloon, okay, a barber shop, and where you have employed, or where you have some people who are service providers, right? They you can say uh, they do the haircuts, they do the shaving part. Okay. Now suppose there is no customer. You opened your shop at 10 o'clock, and as soon as you opened, you see some people were waiting, and after they were served, there are no in the queue, or who are waiting to get service. Now as soon as the last customer leaves the facility, the time between his departure and the time between his departure and the next arrival, this time the service providers are idle. So they are doing nothing but spending the time, they're passing the time only. Okay, so if there would have been some customers during this period, you would have earned some amount, or you would have earned some business. But there were no customers during this particular period, so they remain idle. And if they remain idle, you're paying them for nothing. You're paying them for nothing but to remain only idle for that duration, and this cost is to be borne by you. Okay, the cost is going to burden you. Okay. Now this is again a cost for idle service facilities. So in this way, the waiting time and idle time affects the cost associated with your services or the behavior of your customer. Now, if you see the relationship between level of service, how you should provide the service, what level of service you should provide. Okay, so the waiting time reduces if you provide good services. If you provide greater level of services, the waiting time cost, the waiting time, obviously, if you have five customers arriving for every hour, and if you have five stations, then there is no waiting time, correct? For an hour there is no waiting time, so you are providing best service. Your service level is at a higher number, and the waiting time associated with it will be very less, or you can say it will be zero. Okay, so the waiting time, it will come down. The waiting time will come down, and as soon as the waiting time comes down, the cost which is associated with this waiting time will also come down. So if you see this curve shows that as you increase your service level, or as you make your service facilities better, if you make your services very good, then your waiting time cost is going to come down. Then it is going to come down. Okay. However, if you see the relationship between level of service and cost of providing service, it is totally different. Because if you have to own the five stations, or if you have to own the multiple stations, if you have to increase your service level, then you have to increase the resources required to it. Say you may need to increase the number of people uh, at the station, or you have to increase the number of chairs at your barber shop. Okay, so the cost of providing these services goes on increasing. It goes on increasing as you increase the level of your service. So there has to be some golden point, there has to be some mean point where the waiting time cost is also less, and the level of your service is also good, or you can say fair enough. Okay, now this can be computed, or this can be found with the help of total cost of operating service facility. If you see this curve, this is your waiting time cost curve, and this is your cost of providing service curve. This is your cost of providing service curve, and this is your waiting time curve. And if you see this particular line and this particular point, you'll find that this is your optimum or minimum point where you are spending less money, as well as you are providing good service. Okay, so total expected cost of operating facilities represented on this axis, and there will be a one point like point S that will give us the total expected cost minimum at a service level denoted by S. Okay, so if I want to give this service level S, then this will be the cost associated with it, and this will be your waiting time cost associated with it, and this will be your total expected cost. Okay, so we can say we have to find an optimum way of providing our better services and at a low cost. So our objective is to determine the level of service which minimizes the total cost providing service and waiting for that service. Okay, so our objective is to determine the level of services which minimizes the total cost providing service and waiting for that service. It will that is our, you can say, objective. Now let's see how these costs are computed. What kind of formula is used to compute these costs? So CW represents expected waiting cost per unit, or you can say per unit time. This is the expected waiting cost. This is your expected waiting cost, that this particular cost, waiting time cost. This is your expected waiting cost per unit of time. Okay, now LS, it is the expected, or you can say average number of customers in the system or the average number of units in the system. Okay, and CF, it represents cost of servicing one unit. Okay, this is the cost associated for servicing a particular single customer. Okay, now unit here means your customer, cost of servicing one, providing service to a customer. And this is expected number of customers in the system. Okay, then the total waiting cost per unit time for that particular period will be given by the multiplication of this expected waiting cost with the number of units or the number of customers in the system, that is your CW multiplied by LS. When the number of customers in the system is multiplied with the expected waiting cost, you get your total expected waiting cost per unit time or for a particular period. Now this expected number of units, or you can say this is the number of customers present in the system, is given by a formula lambda divided by mu minus lambda. It is given by lambda divided by mu minus lambda. Lambda is your arrival rate, mu is your departure rate. Okay, now if this particular LS is multiplied by CW, you will get total expected waiting cost per unit time. Okay, now if we go further, we'll see that expected service cost per unit time. Expected service cost per unit time will be given by CF multiplied by your departure rate, or you can say service rate, mu. CF multiplied by mu. Now the total cost, how you will get total cost? This is one of the cost, this is your another cost. If you simply add these two costs, you will get the total cost associated with it. Okay, so the total cost C is equal to CW into LS, that is CW into LS plus CF into mu. CF into mu. CF is nothing but your cost of servicing one unit. Okay, if you are costing 10 rupees, okay, for your service to a single unit, then 10 into your service rate, then 10 into your service rate. Okay, that will be your expected service cost per unit time. Now this particular thing, this particular cost will be minimum if dc by d mu is equals to 0, or if negative CW multiplied by lambda upon mu minus lambda square plus CF is equals to zeros, and this particular equation gives us the value of mu. How to compute mu? So mu is equals to lambda plus or minus under root CW by CF into lambda. Now this lambda is outside. Okay, so lambda plus or minus under root CW divided by CF into lambda. Okay, now this mu cannot be negative. Okay, can your service rate be negative? Can your service rate be negative? No, so that's why mu cannot be negative. That's why we are using plus or minus sign here. Okay, now the mu given by the above equation is minimum cost service rate. This is the minimum cost service rate, mu. Okay, now we'll go to the Kendall's equation. DG Kendall and letter A Lee in your 18th century, in 1966, introduced useful notation. Mr. Lee in 1966, and before that Mr. Kendall, DG Kendall, in 1953 introduced useful notation for queuing models. The complete notation can be expressed as A oblique B oblique C oblique D oblique E oblique F. Okay, now this is your general notation of Kendall's, or you can say this is the Kendall's notation. Now this particular A, it represents something, this B, it represents something which is related with your queuing model. This C, D, E, F, everything is related with your queuing model. Now we'll see how or what is the meaning of A, or what is the meaning of B, what is the meaning of C, and what it denotes. Okay. Now A here represents your arrival rate, okay, or the distribution of your arrival, whether it is Poisson, whether it is Erlangian, whether it is gamma inter-arrival, or whatever kind of distribution it is, okay, it is represented by A. Okay, and for particular distribution there are some notations. Okay, so we'll see in the next slide. So in general, A represents your arrival distribution or your arrival rate distribution. You can also say that it is the representation of inter-arrival distribution. Okay, now B, it represents your departure distribution or your service rate distribution. Okay, how your service rate is distributed. What is the distribution of your service rate? Now, in most of the cases, we have seen that this arrival rate follows Poisson distribution, and this departure or this departure rate or your service rate, it follows the exponential distribution. Okay, now these particular distributions will be represented by some alphabet, and these alphabet will be used at the position of A or at the position of B. Now this C represents number of parallel service channels. If the service channel is 1, so this C will be denoted by 1. There will be number 1. Okay, there will be a number, and that will be 1. And if this service channel are 2, or you can say they are multiple, then there will be the number mentioned here, or it will be represented by C for multiple channels. Now this D, service discipline, this D represents your service discipline, how your services are provided, in which way the services are provided. In which way means that by which rule are you providing your service. Say there are some rules like first come first serve basis. That means that the person who comes first at the service station will be served first. So it is said that first come first served basis. Or there are some basis like general service discipline or random order service discipline. Okay, so this service discipline will be represented by D, or you can say it will represent service discipline. Now E will represent maximum number of customers allowed in the system. If they are finite, okay, if they are finite, then it will be presented by N. If they are infinite, then it will be presented by infinite symbol. And same will be followed for calling source or population. Okay, so if this population or calling source is limited, then it will be represented by N, and if it is not limited, it will be represented by infinity. Okay, so we'll see the various things that symbols represent. These symbols, so following conventional codes are generally used to replace the symbols of A, B, and D. So for A we can see a symbol M. Okay, now this symbol M will represent Markovian arrival, or it will simply represent the distribution of the arrival, that is your Poisson distribution. So if your arrival rate follows, Markovian or Poisson distribution, then it will be represented by M. This M can be used for B also. If your departure distribution also follows Poisson, if your departure rate or your service rate also follows Poisson distribution, then it will also be represented by same M. Okay, then again another symbol is used, that is E small k. So it's Erlangian or gamma inter-arrival or service time distribution with parameter k. So if you have a parameter k and your distribution or your rate follows gamma inter-arrival or service time distribution, Erlangian distribution, then it is represented by ek. Okay, Now it can also be replaced by GI if it follows general independent arrival distribution. If it follows general independent arrival distribution. Now it can also be represented by G for if it follows general departure distribution. These are the kind of distribution that your arrival rate or your distribution rate follows. Okay. Now it can have a symbol representing D. Okay, so this D represents deterministic inter-arrival service times or service times. Okay, now this is for your A and B. So A and B can have MM, or it can have MEK, or it can have EKM, or it can have GIM, or it can have GM, or it can have GIG. It can the combination can be different. Okay, so for symbol D, there are some notations or there are some general codes which are used like FCFS. So it is for first come, first serve basis. Okay. Now first come, first serve. This is your service discipline. This is your service discipline because D represents your service discipline. A represents your arrival rate distribution. B represents your service rate distribution. Okay, C represents the number of channels. D represents the discipline. Okay, your channel discipline, service discipline. Then LCFS, like last come first serve. In last come first serve, the customer or the part will be served first if it is last. Okay. Then zero, service in random order, randomly served. In this particular method, the customers are served in randomly. Okay. Then it can be represented by GD, where it will represent general service discipline. Okay. Now for symbol E and F, they represent a finite or infinite number. It represents finite or infinite number of customers in the system and calling source respectively. So for example, if we see how a queuing model is represented, so a queuing model can be represented like this. So this particular queuing model represents that the arrival rate follows Markovian distribution, or you can say Poisson distribution. It follows Poisson distribution. That's why here the arrival rate is M. Okay. Now the departure rate or your service rate follows Erlangian distribution. That's why it is represented by EK. Okay, it is represented by EK. The number of channels in this particular model is only one. The number of channel is only one. So there is only one channel. Now the discipline here, the discipline which is followed here is FCFS. That means the customers who are arriving at this particular model, they are arriving with Poisson distribution, they are living with Erlangian distribution. There is only one channel and they are served in first come first serve basis or first come first serve order. Okay. Then this particular N, this represents finite number of customers. This represents there is limited number of customers in the system, and this infinity symbol at the last represents the calling source is having infinite number of customers. Okay, or your population is infinite. So in this way a particular model is denoted by or is represented by your Kendall's notation. So we'll follow this, and in next lecture we'll see how a single channel model can be solved, or what is the method to solve single channel queuing model. Okay, now thank you for listening to it. Stay safe, stay at home. Please follow the instructions given by the government and do not go outside. Stay healthy. Thank you.